Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we're really opening up something quite dark. We've gathered a collection of source materials focusing not just on horror stories, but on the actual concepts behind profound real-life fear.
That's right. We've got true crime reports, some deeply unsettling historical accounts, and even phenomena that, well, they really defy easy explanation.
And our goal for you, the listener, is pretty specific, isn't it? We're not just looking for shock value here.
No, exactly. Our mission is, you could say, almost surgical. We want to extract those core elements of fear that depend almost entirely on context. It's that slow dawning, sickening feeling when you realize the ordinary world around you isn't ordinary at all. It's been poisoned by something horrific, hidden just out of sight.
That subtle shift, yeah, that's where the real terror lies, I think.
It is. It's the key.
Okay, so let's get into this. We've structured this deep dive around 5 main pillars of dread, if you will. We've got the horror of isolation, the horror of, well, desecration, the absolute nightmare of stalking, paranormal encounters, and finally, historical pandemic terror.
And we really need to dig into the sources for each of these concepts. We're starting, perhaps counterintuitively, where you should feel safest at home.
Right. So this first concept, we're calling it the basement man, and it draws directly from these awful cases of prolonged captivity, like the Cleveland abductions, Colleen Stan.
And probably the most infamous, the Joseph Fritzl case in Austria. The real insight here from the sources is how the captor actually weaponizes the very idea of normal domestic life to hide the horror.
The narrative hook here is just terrifying because it's so close. You have to imagine a victim trapped for years, decades even, in a hidden, fortified bunker.
Built by her own father.
By her own father, yeah. And it's located directly beneath the family's own living room. He somehow hid the secret for, what was it, 2.5 decades?
25 years. And not just from the world, but from his own wife, who was living, sleeping right above this dungeon.
The duration itself is just, it's staggering. 2.5 decades of constant abuse, manipulation, mental torture. You think about the world outside changing.
Oh, absolutely. Governments rise and fall, technology leaps forward, But for the victims, time just stopped. They were locked in this perpetual stagnant horror.
And the sources, they really detail the specific chilling outcomes of that isolation. Children were actually born down there.
Yes. Grew up having never, not once, seen the sun or the sky, never felt grass or earth beneath their feet, just concrete.
And it wasn't just about being confined, was it? It was like architectural torture almost.
That's a good way to put it. One source specifically mentions how one victim developed these severe permanent posture problems. Why? Because the ceiling of the bunker was simply too low.
They couldn't stand up straight.
Never, not fully. So their bodies were literally physically molded by this environment of captivity.
Wow. And the captor, how did he even manage this? Living this double life.
Well, that's the chilling part about context, isn't it?
Yeah.
He'd spend these long, suspicious hours down there, but he just told his wife, told the neighbors, oh, I'm working on blueprints or, doing some engineering projects, just mundane excuses.
And even rented out rooms upstairs.
Yeah, oblivious tenants living right above, paying rent to live in a house where people were suffering, dying right under their floorboards. Unbelievable.
It's like a systemic failure of observation almost.
It is. But the sources offer this one tiny, haunting detail, almost a failure point in the system, like you said. One source mentions that a tenant's dog would often just sit near a particular wall, staring intently at it, ears perked up, as if it was listening to something.
Something the humans just tuned out or couldn't hear.
Exactly. The animal instinct picked up on something wrong, something hidden, that detail. It's chilling because it suggests the horror wasn't perfectly contained. It was leaking out just slightly.
And detected only by an animal. And the stakes. If he had just had a heart attack or something down there.
Well, it had been sealed in. That bunker would have become a tomb. They would have gone from enduring this living horror to just slowly suffocating. Trapped forever by the very person who pretended to be their protector.
God, that's... Okay, so moving from that horror of isolation, you mentioned the horror of desecration, and this brings us to Ed Gein, the butcher's craft, you called it.
Yes, and this is where the human body isn't just harmed, it's fundamentally changed, turned into artifacts, objects. It completely dissolves that boundary between a person and a thing.
And it's important, like you said earlier, to be clear about his place in true crime. He often gets lumped in with serial killers, but the sources are pretty specific, right?
Very specific. He was primarily a grave robber, a body snatcher. Driven by this incredibly intense, toxic obsession with his dead mother, his goal was almost literally to become her. He only actually killed 2 known victims.
But the artifacts, they came from many more bodies he stole.
Correct. The motive is the key distinction. Your typical serial killer, generally they're after a power, control, maybe sexual gratification through the act of killing. Game. He was trying to reverse his mother's death to actually assume her persona. The violence against the living seems almost secondary to building his collection.
And that collection, the discovery at his farmhouse in Plainfield, Wisconsin, it's like something straight out of a horror film.
It truly is. When the police went in, they didn't find a home. They found this perverse museum of horrors where almost everything was made from stolen human remains.
The level of meticulous depravity is just hard to process. We're talking about functional household items.
Functional items. Skulls hollowed out and used as, like, posts on his bed. Waste baskets made of human skin. Chair seats upholstered with it. Stretched and cured.
It just keeps going. The inventory is just insane. Leggings made from actual leg skin, like he was trying to wear them?
Suggests exactly that. And a belt made entirely of human nipples. The sources document finding nine salted vulvas just tucked away in a shoebox.
In a shoebox.
And then, of course, the masks. Face masks made from the skin of women's faces.
And he admitted why, didn't he?
He did. He told police he stole the corpses to create a bodysuit of human flesh. His words. So he could, metaphorically and literally, slink back into his mother's skin.
Turning other people into tools, into props for his fantasy, it's the ultimate violation, isn't it?
It really is.
So.
And that act, transforming human flesh into a costume, it's so profoundly disturbing it instantly bled into fiction.
Leatherface, Buffalo Bill.
Exactly. Gein was the direct, twisted blueprint for monsters we still fear in movies today, like Leatherface and Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Buffalo Bill and Silence of the Lambs. It just shows how the most enduring fictional horrors often come directly from documented human potential for sadism and perversion.
Okay, so we've gone from isolation in a basement to this physical desecration. Now we shift gears again into psychological destruction, the world of stalking.
Right, the stalking nightmare. A horror defined by violating space, both physical and digital. And the context for this one, it starts with something depressingly common, mundane even.
A car robbery.
Exactly. This case involves a nursing student, we'll call her Laura. Her car was broken into, purse stolen. Inside, wallet, ID, and critically, her Social Security card. What starts as just a financial headache
becomes the toolkit for the stalker. Craig J.
He now has the foundational pieces to just systematically dismantle her privacy, her life.
And the physical harassment, it started small but just kept going. Right, designed to keep her constantly off balance.
Relentless is the word. Started with things like ding-dong ditching, but quickly ramped up. Vandalism, repeatedly slashing her tires, finding this bizarre, hateful graffiti swastikas, hangman symbols painted on her friends' cars even.
So it wasn't random. She knew it was targeted.
Oh, yeah. At first, she tried to rationalize it, maybe neighborhood kids. But the cost mounting up, the specific targeting of her and her friends, that doubt disappeared pretty quickly.
And then it moved online. The digital violation.
Which is maybe even more insidious in some ways. Craig J. used her stolen information to create these fake MySpace and Facebook profiles. He just infiltrated her online world.
And the messages weren't normal threats, were they?
No, they were bizarre. Long, rambling, nonsensical stuff, treating Alara as if she was his sort of preordained secret lover. It's this forced intimacy, demanding her attention, trying to warp her reality to fit his delusion. It's pure psychological warfare.
Then it got physical again, actually breaking in somewhere.
Yes. He broke into a vacant rental property that a friend of hers owned, where Alara was storing some things. He literally used a knife to slice through the window screen, tried to climb inside.
Okay, so now there's physical evidence.
Finally. That break-in attempt allowed the police to get fingerprints, match them to Craig J. So now it's official, legal action starts, restraining order.
That didn't stop him.
Not at all. It just made him change tactics. He started systematically contacting her friends, demanding money, spreading weird rumors about her. He even drove to her younger sister's apartment complex and confronted her sister, trying to isolate Alara completely, dismantle her support system.
Just relentless pressure. Which leads us to this climax. Alara tries to escape, right? She moves.
Yes, after all this, she moves into a new apartment. A secure building, locked entrances, everything. Spent a lot of money trying to create what she called her fortress. She was incredibly careful about security after everything she'd been through.
And the first major breach of that fortress, late at night.
2 a.m. The doorbell rings. She checks the security camera feed, and there he is. Craig J., standing outside the locked main entrance, lit up by the floodlight.
And her description of him then, that's really crucial, isn't it?
It is. She talked about this deeply unsettling vibe, but specifically his eyes. She described them as, well, penetrating, calculating, and having this unusual color. A bright hazel orange, she said, like a snake's eyes.
Orange, snake-like eyes. Okay. She managed to scare him off that time.
Yeah, she called the neighbor who came down, and he left. But that image, him bathed in that midnight light,
yeah,
it just stayed with her, a constant threat.
Okay, so fast forward a few months. She's coming home late, double shift, exhausted.
Right. Tired, but still vigilant because of everything.
Yeah.
And she immediately notices two things. Small things, but contextually, they scream wrong.
What were they?
First, her apartment door. The one she always triple-locked, it was unlocked.
Okay.
Second, the apartment itself. She always left lights on, specifically to combat the paranoia from the stalking. But now, pitch black inside.
So these aren't huge, dramatic things, but together.
Together they were, as the sources put it, a 5-alarm fire bell going off in her head. And psychological research backs this up. Real intense fear in trauma situations often relies heavily on this accumulation of wrong details, this shift in context. It's not the jump scare. It's the slow realization that your safety has been fundamentally compromised.
So she didn't go in?
No, pure instinct. She backed away immediately, went and got a neighbor. The neighbor comes over, maybe trying to lighten the mood, maybe not fully believing it.
Yeah.
And he sort of jokingly throws open the door to the little pantry in her kitchen. And there he was. Craig J. crouched down inside, waiting in the silent darkness of her pantry, inside her fortress, the ultimate violation of sanctuary.
Just waiting. But there's another layer to this, isn't there? Something connecting back to Ed Gain.
Yes, this is the detail that just elevates the horror exponentially. When the police arrested Craig J. and searched the pantry, they found something beside him, a macabre relic, clearly inspired by Gain.
What was it?
A wastebasket. Crudely made from what looked like darkened, tanned human skin wrapped in oilcloth.
No, so he didn't just break in to wait, he brought that.
Exactly. It completely shatters the context again. It's no longer just an obsessive stalker breaking and entering. It suggests something far more premeditated, far more sadistic. He wasn't just there to scare her. He was potentially planning a scenario inspired by the absolute depths of body horror. The silent lurker had props.
It shows how these historical models of depravity can influence even personal acts of terror, gives it a much deeper, darker psychological root.
Absolutely.
Okay, let's shift now from human crime, however horrific, to things less easily explained. And also, back in time, we have the grinning observer next, a roadside encounter that feels, well, paranormal.
The setup here is deliberately normal, almost cliche. Teenage girl waiting alone at a bus stop. It's well lit downtown, but late, close to midnight.
Plenty of space on the bench, presumably.
Loads of space. But this tall man, dressed all in black, comes and sits right down next to her and starts talking, smoothly, confidently.
But something's off about him.
Deeply off. The sources emphasized his appearance was just wrong. Very tall, shiny black leather clothes. Unusually tan, smooth skin, slick black hair. But the eyes, they were the focal point.
Not the orange snake eyes again.
Similar, but described slightly differently here. Deep amber, almost luminous, like fire caught in glass, one source said. And they had this intense, calculated quality that just radiated wrongness, a sinister vibe.
And the conversation wasn't normal either.
No, the terror was atmospheric, psychological. He kept trying to persuade her to take a ride with him. Not aggressively, but with this kind of fake concern. It's not safe for you out here alone, that kind of thing.
Trying to manipulate her sense of safety.
Precisely. And when she kept refusing, he did something really weird. He took off his black leather jacket and draped it over her lap.
Why?
It felt like this suffocating, possessive gesture, like marking territory, asserting dominance in that public space. Really unsettling.
And this whole vibe, the weird appearance, the intense eyes, the unsettling behavior, it connects to other unexplained phenomena?
It does. The source material draws a direct line to accounts of someone or something called Indrid Cold, the so-called grinning man.
Who was connected to the Mothman sighting.
Right. Indrid Cold was reportedly seen just before the Mothman sightings in Point Pleasant, West Virginia. Often described as bald, unnaturally tan, with this huge fixed grin, and sometimes communicating telepathically.
So different physical description, but a similar feeling.
Exactly. The shared elements are this almost manufactured, too-perfect physical appearance combined with that deeply sinister, relentless, grinning persona and the unnerving, calculated intensity. These figures seem to operate just outside the normal human emotional spectrum, communicating intent through this unsettling physical presence, not genuine feeling.
And how did the encounter end?
The bus finally arrives. The girl practically jumps on, leaving his jacket on the bench. As she gets on, she hears him say, really low under his breath, "You got lucky." And then, as the bus pulls away, she looks out the window. He's walked over to his car in a nearby dark parking lot, and he's just standing there, waving for her to come back. A final, lasting visual imprint of dread.
You got lucky. That implies it wasn't random.
Exactly. It suggests this was a target event, something planned, that only failed because the bus arrived when it did. He leaves the victim with this permanent fear that she was chosen and just narrowly escaped. Well, who knows what.
Okay, from the possibly paranormal to definite historical horror, let's go back, way back, to the Great Plague of London, 1665.
Right. The horror here isn't a single entity. It's the total collapse of society. Everything you rely on just gone, amplified by this unstoppable biological terror.
The visual cues from the historical sources must be stark.
Immediate and shocking. Every house with an infected person inside had to be marked. A large red cross painted on the door.
Like a warning sign.
A terrifying one. And underneath it the words, "Lord, have mercy upon us." It instantly marked the house for containment and very often for death.
And this was during the summer, right? Must have made things worse.
Intensified everything. The heat, the smell. The streets apparently became these horrific stages. You'd see people staggering like they were drunk, then just falling dead. Or lying in corners, half dead, vomiting.
The sources don't hold back, do they?
Not at all. They describe sights like infants, the stock of a future generation, hanging lifelessly at the breast of their dead mothers. The disease showed no mercy, spared no one.
And the disease itself, physically, what did it do?
It was violent. Patients developed these large, incredibly painful swellings in their lymph glands, the buboes. High fever, delirium, and then rashes that would darken, turn black as gangrene set in on fingers, toes, noses.
Which is where the name Black Death comes from.
Precisely. And the only real medical response, often useless, was the plague doctor in that terrifying bird-like mask filled with herbs and spices hoping to filter the bad air. More a figure of dread than comfort, really.
In the logistics, dealing with the dead.
That's where the societal breakdown really shows. The sheer number of deaths just overwhelmed everything. Parishes couldn't bury people fast enough. The magistrates were helpless.
So what happened to the bodies?
The city's infrastructure just failed. Bodies piled up in houses, in the streets. These dead carts would make rounds every night.
The famous dead carts.
Clattering through the empty streets, often driven by desperate men, maybe drunk, just trying to cope. They'd collect the corpses, often just wrapped in a sheet or a rug, sometimes barely covered at all, shouting, "Bring out your dead!"
And they didn't get proper burials.
No chance. The scale was too immense. They weren't taken to churchyards. They were hauled outside the city walls and dumped into these huge communal plague pits.
Mass graves.
Mass graves. Rich, poor, known, unknown, all thrown in together, losing all identity in the face of this overwhelming disaster, the ultimate indignity.
And this level of collapse, it affected people's behavior, didn't it? Morally.
Profoundly. Sources report just horrifying breakdowns in basic human decency. Parents abandoning their sick children to save themselves. And even worse, sufferers, knowing they were dying and contagious, deliberately trying to infect others, breathing in their faces, wandering into crowds, just spreading the doom out of despair or malice. The horror was total, biological, social, moral.
Okay, so we've spent a lot of time narrating these incredibly grim scenarios. From the basement, the farmhouse, the pantry, the roadside, the plague street. Now let's try to synthesize this, using the sources to look at the psychology. Specifically, that idea of context-defining fear.
Exactly. And the Alara stalking story is actually a perfect case study for this. The psychological analyses we found in the source material really hammer this point home. True, intense fear, especially in these high-stakes real-life situations, it rarely looks like the wide-eyed, gasping scream you see in movies.
Right. Real-life facial expressions can be delayed or misleading even.
Very misleading. Alara's terror wasn't triggered by seeing Craig J's face in the pantry initially. It was triggered before that by that specific chain of contextual errors.
The cigarette butt she'd found outside her window earlier, the fact he got past the main security gate, the unlocked apartment door that should have been locked, the unexpected total darkness inside.
Exactly. It's the accumulation of those disturbing details that profoundly changes a normal situation coming home into something terrifying. That's what creates the fear, the context switch.
The feeling of violation depends entirely on that prior expectation of safety being shattered.
Irrevocably broken. The knowledge that he had bypassed the locked building, somehow disabled her triple-locked door, and then waited in silence. That's what sounds the five-alarm fire bell of existential threat. It wasn't just seeing him, it was understanding what his presence meant in that space.
And then finding that gun-inspired relic beside him just cements that contextual shift, doesn't it?
Completely. It instantly transforms the situation from, maybe just a restraining order violation by an obsessive stalker into clear evidence of sadistic, premeditated planning drawing on the absolute darkest parts of criminal history. Context is everything.
Which brings us to the aftermath, the lasting trauma. Craig J. was caught, convicted, aggravated stalking, breaking, and entering. His parents apparently cited mental illness.
But for Alara, the damage was done, and it was permanent.
The violation led to this chronic, severe psychological toll. The sources really detail years of anxiety, right? An inability to trust anything or anyone.
Total inability. Consider the specific coping mechanism documented. For 2 whole years after the pantry incident, Alara slept with her couch pushed up against her apartment door every single night.
As a physical barrier?
A physical barrier. Logically, maybe not that effective against someone determined, but psychologically. It became her only tangible sense of security against another violation of her space. She apparently still fights the urge to pile furniture against doors, even now.
And the vigilance never really goes away.
Never. The paranoia becomes chronic. The source material captures it perfectly years later, the smallest, most random trigger, like finding a sudden baseball-sized crack in her car windshield one morning.
Yeah.
Instantly sends her back into total gut-wrenching panic. The immediate thought is always, oh God, is he back? Is this him? Is this a sign?
So the true horror wasn't just the event itself, but the calculated effort behind it.
Exactly. The meticulous effort he put into destroying her sense of safety, her stability in the world. It wasn't a quick crime. It was this sustained campaign. And the result was permanent, crippling paranoia. That feeling of being hunted, of having your reality systematically taken apart. It just embeds itself. It never leaves.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, looking back at the isolation, the mutilation, the stalking, the paranormal hint, the historical disease, the thread connecting them all really is that environment, that context.
Absolutely. The basement, the farmhouse workshop, the pantry, that lonely bus stop, the plague-ridden street. The setting itself defined the danger. Context separates the ordinary from the monstrous, the mundane moment from a life-altering trauma. It's the meaning hidden just beneath the surface.
Which brings us perfectly to our final thought, a really provocative one, synthesizing that horror of Guine's creations with the absolute dread of being trapped. It's the darkest realization we found in the sources.
Right.
It's the scenario described as the butcher's daughter.
Imagine this scene, drawn from the material. Police respond to a call, enter a remote house. Inside, they find what looks like a life-size female mannequin or prop. It's clad entirely in clothing seemingly made of human skin, complete with a face mask sewn on.
So initially they assume it's just another horrific artifact, like something inspired by Guine.
Decorative relic?
Exactly, a macabre homage, but then the context shifts violently. A witness mentions having seen slight movement, something unsettling about the prop. Then the police notice something else, a message crudely scratched onto the wall nearby. It says, "I woke up."
And they realize the figure isn't bolted down or mounted. It's standing upright in a narrow, shallow hole dug into the floor.
So it's not a prop?
It's not a prop. It was a living person, a woman, possibly mistaken for dead, or maybe just rendered unconscious. She was placed vertically inside that suit made of human skin and effectively buried standing up.
So the movement the witness saw
wasn't a malfunction. It was the futile, terrifying struggles of a conscious mind realizing the full, suffocating horror of its situation. Premature burial inside a costume of death.
that final realization, entombed, unable to move, understanding your fate, hidden inside the very material of horror, that's the ultimate contextual terror.
It is. That moment where the conscious mind fully grasps the horrifying meaning of its circumstances, hidden beneath a grotesque surface. A truly terrifying lesson in the gap between what we might see and what the context forces us horribly to understand.
A very difficult thought to end on, but yeah, a necessary one for understanding this kind of fear. Thank you for diving deep with us today. We'll see you next time.